Hello, everybody. This is Professor Dom again. Just to check in on you, we're transitioning this week, or we have transitioned into Module 9. We're getting into more of the nuts and bolts of our professional ethics um, with the understanding that knowledge of our individual, like framework and core values, directly translates into our public service, right? Um, One could argue could compartmentalize, right, your personal ethics from your professional ethics. For example, some people will point to the former President Bill Clinton, who had a questionable um, relationship with at least a young intern in the White House, and allegations arose from other women that over his career he was that way, sexually harassing women, if you will, or procuring a relationship with them. But yet, as an administrator, was very effective. Um, yeah, you can kind of see that, but in the case of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, you see how his personal life bled over into the professional life, and he was impeached, and a lot of ugliness came out of it, unfortunately. So, what we're seeing here now, we're going to be looking at two different texts. We're kind of migrating from, if you will, Boss and Plant. They've kind of given you the foundation conceptually as well as pragmatically in Plant, what your values are, what is your ethical framework, or which maybe one or two frameworks do you gravitate from. Um, Now you're going to get into Menzel and Duska. Duska specifically for the accountant, right, for the accounting profession. He writes about ethics in business, if you will, and you'll see in his readings, he takes the view that, profit in and of its end, or in and of itself, doesn't justify the means. Societal benefit is what we need to look forward to. So our profit seeking as big four firms, for example, or as individual CPA, sole proprietors, should be to advance and better society. A very altruistic view. One that the founding fathers would have wanted capitalism to be rooted in morality. That was the idea. The idea was that morality would unleash an economic engine in the colonies at the time that would just let individual freedom and liberty go and run. But a lot of those folks, white European, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, kind of thought the same way, had the same moral values. Not judging them, okay? Just saying. So maybe it was easier for them to kind of all view the things through the same prism. But nonetheless, it was a very virtuous and very, I think, correct approach. Use capitalism to benefit the colonies, to benefit the people at large. This is why you don't have states of Massachusetts or Virginia, you have commonwealths, right? Where the wealth is common to be shared. Again, capitalism was destined or designed to benefit everyone. It's changed, hasn't it? Okay? We can get into that and go down a lot of different rabbit holes, right? Or maybe some good ultimate conversations that could lead to some potential solutions. So you'll see that the founding fathers, and you'll pick some of this up now in Duska when you read Duska's book, the system of checks and balances, the three branches of government were designed to diffuse power. Because imagine one single committee in Washington that controlled the power of the purse. This is why we have either 12 or 13 appropriations committees, depending on how you count them. And they're separate from authorizing committees, for good reason. This is why you don't have any one committee that is in charge of infrastructure or any particular element. per se, maybe with the exception of national defense and national security. Um, so it's diffused on purpose. So within Congress itself, power is kind of diffused. Then you have the judiciary, and you have the executive branch, which tries to keep a check on Congress, and they're all watching each other. Because as James Madison said, look, I think he wrote this in Federalist Paper 51, you know, if men were angels, we wouldn't need a government. But we know men are not angels. We know they're connivers, is basically what he was saying. So because of that, we need government to regulate behavior, to not only tell people, hey, look, this is the right way to act for the betterment of society, but to also protect the minority views. And I don't want to digress, but understand that in a bicameral system, such as what England has, we have, many countries have, whether it's parliamentary or not, like ours. The bicameral system has a majority house, we call it Congress, where we elect the House of Representatives. They are the democratic side of government, right? The majority opinion. Well, we know pure democracy is nothing more than mob rule, as Plato wrote, and as many of us now understand, right? You can't have the majority get its way all the time, maybe never. Why? Because they'll trample the rights of the minority. So you have the Senate, and the Senate protects the views of the minority. The Senate is the one that says, slow down, we want to look at this a little bit differently, okay? Let's take a chill pill. And this is why government, when you don't have ideologues and these power bases, and you have sincere public servants, will work well. The founders designed an excellent system. So you have this bicameral system to regulate the people under the social compact we have, where the majority will get their say for sure, but subject to the interests of the minority. And we always forget that. Similarly, now it's an election cycle. You hear some pundits, and you've been hearing it for a while, say, let's get rid of the Electoral College. If any of you believe that, you need to go back and really think about what I just said concerning democracy, pure democracy versus a democratic republic, which is what we live under. And if the shoe were on the other foot, whichever foot that might be, left or right, would you take that position? The Electoral College, in a similar way, I should say, protects the right of the minority states, states with fewer population, but yet nonetheless they're important, what they used to call the flyover states. So when you read Menzel, you're going to get an idea of this, and also some recent history scandals, if you will, within government, the problems we've had ever since the founding of the nation, whether it was George Washington procuring attire for the revolutionary troops, and the attire was shoddy cotton, buttons were falling off the troops, coats were shredding apart during the winter, soldiers were freezing, to the Civil War, where Abraham Lincoln also had trouble getting ammunition and it was defective, product substitution. Matter of fact, there's a procurement law that's still within the defense. Actually, it's in the Federal Acquisition Regulation to this day. It's a term and condition in FAR Part 52. I can't remember exactly, but it deals with product substitution. It goes back to a Supreme Court case in the 19th century that Lincoln brought up. We still use that to this day. Matter of fact, I cited it in one of the audit reports I'd issued years ago. So now we see with the recent Gulf War, I say recent, Gulf War, charges that Halliburton was making a lot of obscene profit, BlackRock. We see all this. Now, this gets into a discussion within DUSCA too about privatization of government. you know, how far should government go to keep things inherently governmental before it realizes, wait a minute, we're outside our swim lane, we need expertise, and we begin privatizing? We see a lot of the public-private partnerships, both at state level and federal level, handing the keys of the Ferrari over to maybe some pretty not so keen teenagers, right? Um, who might not really know how to drive yet, or who drive at reckless speeds, knowing that daddy will bail them out if they get a ticket, or worse yet, crumple the car a bit. Dad will take care of everything, right? So you've got these P3s, public-private partnerships, alternative financing arrangements. What's the role of government? How are the people being served? Are they being served? So what are the ethics regarding all this? You know, if we are to keep the social compact, can we trust corporate America to do it under these long-term arrangements that might privatize a toll road or an operation up to 75 or 99 years, guaranteed profits, and they've socialized losses? Do you think that's good for the American people, for the taxpayers, the public? Think about that. So the ethics of government, how far have we come from that wonderful social construct or administrative construct that the Founding Fathers created? Think about that. Now we transition to our industry in DUSCA. So do we practice accounting just to make money, or do we truly serve the public? I'm a cynic. I belonged to the profession for 40 years, if not longer. The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and I know this is going to be a publicly available video, has really radically changed since when I first joined. And it has gone on a venture approach to just not serve the American public or CPAs. In my opinion, and it's really not an opinion, it's fact, they've gone global. They've increased a lot over the years. They're more of a marketing arm, looking to help businesses or accounting businesses expand and grow. And I don't know, there's some of us that are concerned that they may have lost their way and not really focused enough on preserving the social compact, the public trust. So again, this is why we go back to Madison. We have government, it's the Securities and Exchange Commission, the PCAOB, the Consumer Protection Financial, the CPFB, the Consumer Protection Financial Board, is it? Oh my goodness. These regulatory agencies that will keep an eye on not only businesses, but of course the audit firms, and fine them accordingly if they, violate a regulation, a law. So think about the readings here, the ethics, and understand that if you're in public accounting, you know what you're confronting. I used to watch F Troop, and the Indians would say, "White man speak with forked tongue." The profession says one thing about maintaining the public integrity, but in the back room, they're counting the cold hard cash. That's what you face when you go to public accounting. In government, you face another ethical dilemma. They talk about transparency, informing the citizen, making sure they know everything. But yet, in government, there's this bias to really report the truth for fear of retaliation from the politicals that are in charge, from Congress, from the administration, from the people. So you have a dilemma as a professional, whether you're in government or in industry. It comes back to your core values, your ethics. I always tell my students, don't follow an employer, whether it's governmental or private, public. Like the three wise men, you follow a guiding star. And that guiding star should be your values, your ethics. Now, does that mean you're going to be perfect? I haven't been, for sure. You haven't been. We'll never be perfect. We're going to fail. But what matters is not how many times you fail. What matters is that you pick yourself up, brush off your knees, and keep following that star. The ethical star. Serving the public. Making sure you're not so selfish. Now, there's one of you in class, according to the statisticians who study human behavior, 4% of the American population are sociopathic. That means they have no compassion, no feelings. They're just selfish people. I mean, just thinking about themselves. They have no empathy. Why are they born this way? We don't know. Are they born this way? Is it nature, nurture? Beyond my remit of expertise, okay? But I can tell you, think about that. If 4% of the population in the United States lacks compassion or empathy towards their neighbor, that means 96% of us do. Then why do we have all these problems? Why do we see the left and the right fighting? Why do we see people of different ethnic, racial, religious views fighting, arguing, hating? Whoa, it blows my mind. If 96% of us have compassion and empathy, doesn't that make you wonder what has gotten into my head to alter the compassion, the empathy, the ethics, the core values that I have? Back in my day it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I think today it's sex, drugs, and if not rock and roll, rap, or whatever you're listening to. What are the lyrics to the music you're listening to? What gospels are you listening to from your celebrities? Who is your idol? Who do you worship? Which celebrity do you worship as a god or listen to as though it was a pastor, a rabbi, or an imam giving a sermon? Think about that. You're suffering from a substance abuse problem, whether it's prescription or not. Is that clouding you, right? Think about these things in your life because you're young, hopefully. Some of you are a little older than others, but you're certainly younger than me. Think about what you have allowed in your life to pollute the garden of your mind. The garden of your mind should have flowers, beautiful fruit-bearing trees, flora and fauna. But no, we allow those weeds to grow. The bitterness, the hatred. We dehumanize others by calling them horrible names. Back when I was a kid growing up in Newark, New Jersey, black people and white people never used the word racist. I think the black people back then understood there were many whites who were prejudiced, and that's correct. Many whites prejudged black people in Newark. And conversely, blacks who didn't understand whites prejudged whites. So it was prejudiced. But to use the R word, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. Our rhetoric from the politicians who have a lot to answer for, and even some of our so-called religious leaders have a lot to answer for because the rhetoric has poisoned the culture. Remember, my friends, when the debate in the halls of Congress fail, the debate will carry into the street. If the debate fails in an organization, it goes into the streets. We need ethical governments and ethical corporations that benefit the social compact, not the very rich, and not just those who claim to be very poor or are very poor. You have to benefit everyone. That was the intent of the founding of this great country. That was the intent of the system that was set up of checks and balances, and the ethics were supposed to guide us to better mankind, right? Not to just make us richer and make us dependent on foreign countries. So think about all of the stuff that we're reading and how it applies to what you see going around in the world today, and stay cool, stay calm, and make sure to know who you are, because Halloween's coming. What mask are you wearing? What mask are you going to put on the mask that you're wearing? Are you ready to take your mask off in this class and in life and live life boldly with those values and who you are? Or are you going to keep pretending, keep running away? Don't do that. Stand for what's right. 96% of this class has empathy and compassion. Stop using some horrible words that the media is telling you to use. Stop calling people names. Everyone deserves respect, for we're all part of this human family, and this is why we should all look to better society, especially as public servants, regardless of who they are. Maintain social order, maintain civility. That's what it means to be a public servant, not just to be a federal, state, or local government employee. Anybody could do that, okay? Have a good week. We'll see you.